to life.
Can you still take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. I appreciate everyone tuning in on a late Saturday night. Oh boy, it has been a fun last hour and a half dealing with AI. Anybody that's ever worried that AI is going to take over the world anytime soon just really needs to go and use it for a couple of weeks, and you'll find out real fast that even though it's really smart, it's really not that smart. It does a lot of things really, really well, but we're not at a point to where it's ready to take over the world. So I'm live. I have a flight at 6:30 out of Richmond, headed to Panama City for my son's baseball tournament this week. So there was no way for me to do a live tomorrow, not unless I went live at like 4 o'clock. And that would give little to no time to make things happen. And this is how smart AI is. I just happened to notice this up here. Racing in the dirt, whatever this is. I didn't even notice it till just now. Good job, AI. So, like I said, what's up, Daniel? What's up, Lost Prophet and Free Bird? Oh, it's a Saturday night. We didn't have any qualifying. We did have practice, which actually is a huge benefit. At least we got some laps in. We can figure out maybe what some of these lap times look like, if there's much of any fall off, and those types of things. So thankful for that at least. But I mean, Mother Nature sandwiched that storm in right between trucks finishing and the Cup Series wanting to go and do practice and qualifying. So they canceled qualifying, gave us practice, which I'll take that. I'd rather have the practice than the qualifying, because the fast guys are going to make it to the front anyways. So we'll get to all that when we do the driver by driver look at and breakdown and all that fun stuff. But I appreciate everyone tuning in. It'll be interesting to see. The last 2 Sundays have had really, really good viewership. I'm interested to see if a Saturday night has much of anything at all. I mean, I know that Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are playing, so I mean, everybody could be watching that. Never mind. Don't get me started. But either way, we are at North Wilkesboro, 30 years in the making, and I have my shirt on for it. I'm ready to go. I remember going, so my dad used to camp during the summers. My dad lives down in Charleston, South Carolina. It gets super hot in the summers down there. Like, it pretty much gets hot everywhere. But in the mountains of North Carolina, it stays nice and cool most of the time, at least at night. And my dad would always go, and for like 20 years would camp just outside Boone, North Carolina with his RV and spend the summers up there. And I remember driving by North Wilkesboro for years and years and years going, man, it's such a shame that this place is just going to waste and is just going to end up crumbling in on itself, which it almost did for the most part. Looking at some of the footage that came out from when they scanned the track back in 2020 to where they have it now and have pretty much rebuilt the whole place. And it looks great and it provides great racing. But we're finally back to a full Cup race, points paying, 450 laps. They used to only run 400 laps here, and guys would get out of the cars and literally almost fall over after 400 laps. 450 laps at this place is going to be very tiring. Really depends on what the temperatures end up being for luckily enough is a evening race, night race. So hopefully these guys can, not completely keel over and die at the end of this thing. I mean, there were guys after the 250 lap truck race today that literally had to go to the care center. They were sitting down beside their cars. And we're adding an extra 200 laps to this thing tomorrow night. So fingers crossed that the weather behaves and maybe Mother Nature gives a little bit of break for the temperatures. But this place is not easy. Short track racing is not easy, and 450 laps is going to be a test of machine and man, to say the least. So we'll see who's an athlete and who is not tomorrow night. That's all I can say. The athlete for last week, or at least the machine, was better than everyone else's machine, was Ryan Blaney's Penske's number 12, who dominated 171 laps led at a super speedway. Unreal. I knew he was going to be good. I knew Penske was good, but damn, that was impressive. Congrats to Ryan Blaney. And you want to talk about a late night? That was a late night last Sunday night. Let's try to figure out how not to have 2 a.m. Post-race interviews going on. I definitely paid for that on Monday. It's been a long week. But I definitely did not have Ryan Blaney doing what he did. That is for sure. So either way, let's look at the optimal lineups so we can get into North Wilkesboro racing. It ended up being more than 260 laps. It was like 263, 264. I think they had overtime. Or did they? I can't remember. It was so long. It was only like 5 days ago, but it feels so long ago. Either way, one dominator, which we don't typically see at a super speedway. Ryan Blaney, 171 laps led, 91.35 points, which is just unreal amount of Draftkings points for super speedway. Made the optimal lineup along with Tyler Reddick coming from 31st to finishing in 8th. And Tyler Reddick had 24 fast laps. Typically, you might see a driver get to double digits, but that's like 10, 11, or 12 laps, not 24 fast laps. So good on Tyler Reddick, having a really good show. Christopher Bell also starting in 32nd, coming in at second place with 74.6 points. I mean, look at the Gibbs cars or the Toyotas. Reddick, Bell, Gibbs. How about SVG with a solid 6th place finish? And Cole Custer, my sleeper of the week pick, showing up in the optimal with a 17th place finish. All right. Now that we've got Atlanta covered. Oh, the optimal lineup challenge. Denny Hamlin still at the top. Ty Gibbs tied with him with 8. Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney with 7. All right. Starting to really tighten up at the top of the heap here. Let's see who, if anybody, can Denny Hamlin or Ty Gibbs get the optimal and take a solid lead. All right, we are back at North Wilkesboro. Sellout crowd. We have got 450 laps, 281.25 miles, which really doesn't seem that far. But and our last winner, Cup points race winner, was Jeff Gordon. Or if we go all-star, it would be Christopher Bell. But we go all the way back 30 years to Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, Jeff Bodine, Rusty Wallace, and Jeff Bodine again. And all of them are well past retirement at this point. So don't pay too much attention to the last winners here for a Cup points paying race. We'll just kind of look at what other tracks compare somewhat similar to this short, flat, what is it, 0.625 or 0.8 something miles? 0.625. Just over a half a mile. So very similar to a Martinsville, almost about the same flatness, a little bit wider, no concretes in the corners. But Bristol has got a lot more banking, so it really doesn't compare. The lap count does. Martinsville, it's much flatter, much more confined, close Racing, not multi-groove, where we definitely will see multi-groove show up tomorrow at North Wilkesboro. But, in a little bit shorter, 0.526 miles. Richmond is actually fairly close with a 14-degree banking and a 0.75 miles. And Iowa also even a little bit longer to 0.875 miles with 12 to 14 degrees of banking. So any of these kind of play in, especially because of the lap count, and that becomes very important when it comes to Draftkings, when we're looking at lap sled, fast laps, and some place differential. All three will come into play when we go to do lineup builds. But I do appreciate everyone tuning in on a late Saturday night. I'm still trying to figure out if a Saturday night is the best night to be doing this, or if a Sunday morning is the best time to do this. It's, I don't. Maybe it matters. I don't really know. You guys tell me in the chat which one you would prefer. A Saturday night that, even if you happen to miss, you could still catch it Sunday morning on VOD, or do you like for me to be on Sundays? And if you're there, you can communicate and chat with me. I'm looking for all the information that you guys have and what your preference is. I can kind of make both of them work. So, all right. So when we're building lineups, what are we looking for in the way of lots of laps? It's definitely dominators. Dominators come into play bigly. You typically, what we're trying to find is somebody that's going to lead 100, 150 of these 450 laps and still continue to finish in that top 5 type spot. Freeport says, as long as practice and qualifying is done, you're good. Okay. I will try not to go live at 2 in the morning because I probably won't have anybody other than maybe some Australians that will join in. I don't know. I don't even know who's up at 2 in the morning. I'm typically not, unless there's a race going on. But what we're typically looking for with these short track, large lap counts, that's where your Dominator points really start to add up. So you can easily have 1, 2, even 2 Dominators when we go to these large lap count tracks, Martinsville, Richmond, Iowa, here at North Wilkesboro. When the Dominator points can really start to add up, we're seeing Denny Hamlin at Martinsville earlier this spring with 150 points. Christopher Bell at Phoenix earlier this year with 149 points. William Byron at Iowa with 95 points. Bristol from earlier this spring, Kyle Larson 150 and Ryan Blaney with 141. So Dominator points really come into play, and we're really looking for probably 2 Dominators for this race because they didn't qualify in on speed. They qualified in on the matrix. Now, Ryan Blaney's really good at short tracks, so with him dominating last week, puts him on the pole for this week. He's going to be probably pretty good. Was he the fastest in practice? No, I think there was a little bit of potential that he can get overtaken towards the beginning. Now, what Ryan Blaney's really good at going through a race is, number one, keeping up with the track, making changes. Now, the pit crew has been suspect on losing positions, but Ryan Blaney's been typically good with taking care of his equipment, taking care of his car, and being there at the end. So, do I still think Ryan Blaney can lead laps? Absolutely. Do I think there are other drivers who can? Absolutely. So, this is a multi-dominator type of race. When it comes to that, now what does the price tag for those drivers look like, and who can you build around? That could be place differentials or kind of start in the top 20 and get a top 5 or top 10 finish. And that's kind of the key. So the way I'm thinking about this build is 2 Dominators, 1 or 2 guys that will kind of start towards the front and finish towards the front, and then 2 to 3 place differentials that probably shouldn't be in the back. Hence, Kyle Larson starting 27th, I think, for this race. A Chase Briscoe starting, I think, in like 30th. They should, as long as they don't tear up their equipment, should be able to get to the front or at least into the top 10, which gives them great place differential. Now, with a Brian Blaney, a potential Denny Hamlin, a Kyle Larson, and a Briscoe, you've almost tapped out your salary cap with those 4 drivers. So you kind of have to pick and choose and build lineups, multiple lineups using different variables with those coming into play. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So and that's what this shows with Martinsville. We had one dominator, 292 of the 400 laps, led by Denny Hamlin. Chase Elliott starting up front, finishing up front. Ty Gibbs, same thing. Start up front, finish up front. I mean, we actually had 4. Austin Cindric, because he was able to fit, started up front and actually lost place differential. And same thing with Shane Van Gisbergen. Started up front and still finished 11th. Definitely keep an eye on SVG. He ran the truck race today. Now, I understand that the truck has, there's only about 10 drivers who are actually really, really good at the truck series or have teams that have the ability and the equipment to make them good. SVG was in a Spire truck. Spire's got a pretty good truck team. But SVG still went from 19th to, I think, 3rd is where he ended up finishing today. And a lot of that was just on sheer speed. It wasn't a whole lot of strategy calls or anything like that. It was just strictly SVG working his way to the front, which is a huge change compared to what 2 years ago. If I would have said SVG would start in North Wilkesboro in a truck 19th, where do you think he would finish? It would not be top 3. And he did that at Martinsville. He did that in the truck series earlier today. He's better at the shorter tracks. Number one, because it's the braking, and he can do the whole clutch, heel, toe braking maneuver that he does on road courses so well. He can manipulate the throttle and how the throttle manipulates the rear end to get it to corner better without wearing out the tires as much. And that's a real key that only comes from being really good at road course racing. So it's the same reason we see AJ Allmendinger a lot of times work his way towards the front on some of these shorter tracks. Now, his equipment typically isn't as good, and that's going to be potentially a little bit of the suspect of the Trackhouse cars. They've been a little bit suspect this year. Now, the aero package is not going to matter as much as on a short track like North Wilkesboro as it does at a 1.5 mile track. It'll matter, but it won't matter near as much. Speaking of packages, they have changed the short track package. Not much really when it comes to the aerodynamics or anything like that, but they have taken a lot of the support features out of the front end of these cars. So there used to be some supports and beams and whatever up in the front part of the car. So right behind where the car slopes down and which would be a bumper, there used to be a lot more supports. Now it's pretty much just fiberglass. And if you go and try to chrome horn somebody, is like they used to call it, you go in and you dive down and you kind of push them up the track, and if you happen to touch your front right to their back left, you kind of got them out of shape. Now you run the potential of knocking your front end off by doing that, or diving into corner, hitting them square to push them up into the track in the corner. You really fear damaging your front end much worse than you used to. So the real problem was the drivers were complaining that on the short track package, the front bumper was so sturdy that drivers could go in and literally hit somebody in the rear end extremely hard, way too hard, push the other driver up out of the way, and there would be no damage to the guy that made that call. So they have taken a lot of the support out of that front bumper. And if you go in and clock somebody going into a corner or at a restart, you have a real potential of knocking your front end off and creating damage to your radiator and those types of things. So it's going to be interesting to see how that ends up playing out. It's not really an aerodynamic advantage or disadvantage. It's much more of a short track advantage or disadvantage. Your car's going to have to be good. You can't just go in and chrome horn somebody out of the way or push somebody out of the way without risking damaging your car. So I'm sure Carson Osor is probably like, oh, thank God. I'm not going to just get the crap knocked out of me in every corner, because now these drivers are going to be scared they might damage their car by retaliating on me. So, but like I said, any of these four, or even five, you could include Bristol, Martinsville, Iowa, Richmond, North Wilkesboro, in the group of the real short track packages. And any of those that run, 350 to 500 laps is kind of how this ends up getting played. And that's how you can look at what in the past has worked. And it's been, the guys that lead 107 laps, 39 laps, but start up, and finish up front. You can still have place differential like Zane Smith from 29th to 11th, Daniel Suarez from 21st to 7th. I mean, a Joey Logano, okay, that's at Richmond, that's pretty easy, 38th to 4th. I mean, Joey Logano shouldn't be starting in 38th. I can't remember what happened last year at Richmond, but he started in 38th, made his way all the way up to 4th. I mean, Joey Logano's really good at number one, typically not getting involved in messes unless his car is just an absolute not handling well. And I don't like Joe Logano. Everybody knows that here. But he's really good at these shorter mile or shorter tracks. Or Joe Logano's not good at the intermediate track. Anything over a mile and under 2.5 miles, Joe Logano's not that good at. Anything that's super speedway or short track, Joe Logano's pretty good at. And so is Penske. But as we go through this, I mean, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano. Ryan Blaney. Nobody at Iowa, really. But Ryan Blaney has dominated at Iowa before. Martinsville, you've got Cindric, who is Penske. Ryan Blaney at Phoenix. So this is, in my opinion, this is still a Joe Gibbs Toyota potential dominated type of race. Hendrick and the Chevys have made huge inroads on making up some of that time and getting better finishes. But Penske and the Fords are not necessarily dependent on aerodynamics and do fairly well at these short tracks. So Penske will enter the picture. Toyota, I still think, is the favorite to potentially win, Christopher Bell being one of them. And then the Hendrick drivers, Kyle Larson comes to mind, William Byron comes into mind, and potentially even Chase Elliott, who won at Martinsville earlier this year, comes into play. Now, Elliott did that with a little bit of pit strategy, but he was still able to hold off and maintain and win over Denny Hamlin. So, speaking of Denny Hamlin, let's get into the driver breakdown here. Like I said, qualifying went by the matrix, whatever it's called. It is last year's result, the points total, and something else. There's a third category that comes into how they figure out the qualifying order. And if it gets rained out, the qualifying order becomes where they start. So Denny Hamlin, because of his finish last week, his points lead, and one other average statistics. I can't remember what it is. It really doesn't matter. But Denny Hamlin was given the 7th place starting spot. Now, if we look at his practice speeds, he was second in sheer speed, 1 lap. He did 58 total laps of practice. He was 4th in the 10-lap consecutive average. A lot of drivers did 20, 25, 30 laps of practice, but the easiest comparison is still that 10-lap average. We don't have a last 5 here, especially in the next gen era or Gen 6 or Gen 5. I'm not even sure if Gen 4 was around when they last raced here, but either way, we have to go with the comparison of the tracks that I just talked about. Martinsville, Phoenix, Bristol, Richmond, and Iowa. Well, they haven't raced Richmond and Iowa this year, so those 2 are last year's track. So out of those 5 races, Denny Hamlin's average has 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s, a 57.5 Draftkings average, and a 10th place average running position. His best finish out of those 5 races is second. His last race here, which was the All-Star race. Now, we only had 23 or 24 drivers who actually competed in the All-Star race here last year. Denny Hamlin finished 12th. And as you can tell, the full track history here, other than the All-Star race, which really doesn't come into play because it's not the full field, it's not a full set of laps, we don't have any points total for these guys here. So this will be across the board. There's nobody who's ever raced a full points paying race in the Cup Series at North Wilkesboro. All right, so that's Denny Hamlin. His price tag is $11,000 on DraftKings. And his practice speeds. He is in the pink, the hot pink color. It's the thicker line of all these. The average lap times is the white line going through here. And you can really tell that there is a little bit of fall off, but not as much as I would have wanted or thought. Even through 50 laps. I mean, they start off in the 18.5 and end up at a 19.0. So a half a second fall off over 50 laps. Now, when you're running 19-second laps, if you're a half second off, you're going to go a lap down within about 35 to 40 laps. So strategy will still come into play. It's just not drastic on the fall off. And I think track position will matter as much as fresh tires. So we don't have as big of a discrepancy as we would see like at a Darlington or a Bristol or those types of things, where if you've got 20 lap old tires and somebody's got brand new lap tires and they can start 10 spots behind you and they make up the difference in less than 10 laps. This is going to be, hey, we've got a 30 lap run to come. If I come down pit road and get tires, I'm going to end up being back in 20th. And the guy that's sitting in 10th is like, I'll take all the track position. I'll go to the front. The guy in 20th is not going to make up enough laps to get to that guy. It's just not going to happen. So that's where the strategy will start to come into play. You'll have guys that will get fuel only, no tires, no fuel. They won't pit, 2 tires, 4 tires. It'll be all across the board. So track position will be absolutely essential. And if looking at Denny Hamlin's practice speeds, they're fine. Denny Hamlin's really good. That's probably the biggest benefit to Denny Hamlin is he's extremely good about taking over his equipment. He has run short tracks his entire life. Most of these guys have, but Denny Hamlin with his experience and veteran experience knows how to take care of his equipment maybe slightly better than some of the younger, newer drivers. And that's going to come into play. So the practice speeds, because they are so tight and we only have about a half a second fall off over 50 laps, the practice speeds matter because I want to see if there's anybody that's really mishandling. Like Kyle Larson, definitely when he went out for his run, he's in the blue. You could definitely see where they made the change. Now their first fast laps were down here in the 18.3, and when they changed tires, so some drivers opted to make a tire change halfway through practice, and some did not. Denny Hamlin did not make a tire change. He just went and ran his straight 37 laps in a row. Where Kyle Larson at lap 37, 38 comes in and changes tires, makes some adjustments, comes back out and runs again. And you can see he's much faster than what the average is. Well, but if you look back, he was not as fast as he was when the track was what they call green, which is fresh, not a whole lot of tire rubber built up on it. He was able to still maintain a pretty good speed. But this is a big difference that you can kind of tell, like, okay, if a driver stays out with 40-lap old tires and a driver comes in and gets new tires, how much faster will they be? Well, here's a prime example. So somebody stays out and they're running 19.0 and a Kyle Larson's going to run an 18.5. Well, once again, that's that half second we just talked about. Equal to equal, that half second is a big difference. You could lap somebody in 20 laps, or no, 40 laps if they were to stay out on old tires. They're not going to. Or come in and get fresh tires and you keep up with them. So I do like to see this piece of the pie because it shows what fresh tires will do compared to old tires. But honestly, the amount of fall off is still about the same, and the speed is very similar or close to about the same. So, and that's what I like to be able to take from practice. All right, Ryan Blaney next in line here at 10,700. Starting from the pole position, he worked so hard to get that pole position too. He did leave 171 laps last week. That gave him the pole position for this week. He just didn't do much today for that pole position. But his practice speeds were 11th in single lap, 58 total laps of practice, and 5th in the 10-lap consecutive average. In the 5 races we're comparing to, he's really good. And then once again, I'm not going to repeat him every time, but it's Martinsville, Phoenix, Iowa, Bristol, and Richmond. He's got 1 win, 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s. So all 5 of these races, he's finished in the top 10. An 81 Draftkings average and a 3.2 average running position. Hands down, it's the best stats for those 5 tracks. And they're all short tracks. Ryan Blaney should be extremely good. I'm a little concerned with his practice speeds, even though they're 11th and 5th. I get it. They're still really fast, but he's starting from the pole. He's going to have to race Kyle Larson. He's going to have to race Christopher Bell. He's going to have to race Denny Hamlin. So there will be some competition here for Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney is also really good at this style track. His best finish over those 5 races, of course, is first. His last race here, so the All-Star race last year, he finished in 16th. Let's take a look at his practice speeds. He is in the hot pink. And honestly, he's better than average. Looks like he probably may have come in and got an adjustment here because he went from 19.1 down to an 18.7. So that looks like maybe an adjustment, or he just happened to have a really good lap. And honestly, it's so hard to tell because we have 50 minutes of practice and you've got 37 drivers all on a different strategy. This is pretty dramatic of a drop-off for Kyle Larson, so that's an easy telltale sign on he came in, got new tires, and made adjustments and went back out. Did Ryan Blaney do that here? It's hard to say if he did or didn't. How much of an adjustment did he make? Unsure. Was he able to get clean laps? Unsure. Unless you could sit and actually watch him on track and see where he's at, what he's doing, and then you'd have to do that for 37 drivers. I would have a live broadcast on Tuesday, and by then the race is over. So we just got to have to look at it and go, okay, I think this is what happened here. This one for Kyle Larson's definitely dramatic, and it definitely shows that he came in for a pit stop and fresh tires. All right, Kyle Larson, speaking of my driver, and yes, I am a Kyle Larson fan and have no problem admitting. In fact, I'd like to have honest and transparency. I am a Kyle Larson fan, but I'll also call Kyle Larson out all the time. And he sucks at super speedways. And he still hasn't won in 43, 44 some odd races. But he won the championship, so maybe you don't have to win races to win championships. He is starting 27th because of his abysmal finish at Atlanta last week. But his practice speeds for this week were pretty good. He was 7th in single lap. He did 70 laps at practice. I love seeing that many practice laps. He was 3rd in the 10-lap consecutive average. And if we look at the 5 races that we're comparing to, he's got 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s. Pretty consistent with a 9.8 average running position and a 58.5 Draftkings average. Best finish was 3rd. In his last All-Star race here last year, he finished 21st. Now, he won the inaugural All-Star race here at N Wilkesboro. He also won the truck race that same year. 3 years ago, I get it, long time ago, but Kyle Larson knows how to get around here. And it looks like for practice speeds, looks like he's got the car to be able to do it also. So he is one of our, I guess, what I call the benchmark driver, along with Christopher Bell, who's in the yellow, and then the white is the average of all drivers. So, and the average, I mean, everybody's pretty close to this average line. Speaking of that, Christopher Bell next in line here, who seems to be perfectly fine. No cast on his left hand. Seems that is now past him at this point. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see what 450 laps at N Wilkesboro does for his wrist. Oh, dude, you're right. Calculator. God, I'm an idiot. Yes, absolutely. Keep your eye on the... Oh, yeah. Thanks, Matt. So Family Man, one of the guys that comes in here and chats. Yes, we have the calculator. The calculator is live. I've already checked it because I had plenty of time to check while AI was doing its other thing with practice laps. That's why I'm so late. And I also was able to fill out a little bit of this. So yes, the calculator is live. It is ready to go. It has the optimizer. It's got the rankings. Everything's there. So while I was waiting for AI, I actually started to fill out some of these things. And it changed a little bit. Either way, that's fine. So yeah, let's go through. We'll do the first few real quick. Thank you, Freebird, for reminding me on that. So Denny Hamlin starting in 7th. You know, what's the storyline? What's the storyline for this week? Is it Ryan Blaney dominates and wins again? Is it Denny Hamlin resurges to the front? Is it a Kyle Larson starts towards the rear and gets a win? Does William Byron finally get his first win of this season? Or does Christopher Bell with a finally healed broken wrist get the win? And those are the storylines that you kind of have to build, and you can run multiple stories while you're building out your calculator. Just remember that's what you're doing in the process. So Denny Hamlin starting in 7th, finishes in 3rd. We only have 450 laps only. We'll give him 50 of those 450. And it's about a 2-for-1 special. So 2 for every lap. To every 2 laps led, it's typically about 1 fast lap. There are variances, I understand, but typically it's a 2-for-1 type of special when it comes to short track racing. So that puts him in a 68.8. The optimal line is 65 points or higher for drivers who are 9,500 and up. Once you get between the 8,500 and the 9,500, that line drops to 55 points, and then so on. And that's all built into this calculator and the optimizer and all that stuff. So what you do is once you figure out what the story is and how you want to build the lineup, you plug it in. So Denny Hamlin, lead 50 laps, have 25 fast laps, finish in third, start in seventh at 68.8. It definitely puts him in the optimal. You hit the locked score to update, and it's there. And then you can look how this all ends up going. I don't know why Joey Logano's always the premium floor driver. I don't know. I think my AI's got a bromance with Joey Logano because it knows I don't like him. All right. So next in line here would be Ryan Blaney. So if we think Denny Hamlin gets to third, does lead some laps, but Ryan Blaney, is it Ryan Blaney that wins or is it Christopher Bell that wins? I think Ryan Blaney finishes in second. So we'll move him to second. I think he kind of does the same thing. He leads probably about 50 laps, has 25 fast laps. We'll lock it in. Not quite to the optimal, but really gosh darn close. Kyle Larson, go from 27th. I think he gets up to like a 8th place finish. Don't think he leads a whole lot of laps because of it, but we'll give him some. 15 and 7? And it says Bell is going to be hard to beat. Correct. The problem is Bell's got to wrestle his way to the front. I also thought Bell was going to be the driver to beat in the truck race, and he ended up going a lap down. Stuff happens. But yes, I absolutely love Bell. He was fastest in practice. He was fastest in 10 lap. And then Larson became fastest, I think, in 20, 25, 30 lap. But I think the 4 drivers to really key in on are Hamlin, Blaney, Bell, and Larson. Those are my 4 probably real true high-end picks. Briscoe's got great place differential this week, so you can definitely put him in there. But Kyle Larson, starting in 27th, huge place differential. I think he ends up getting a top 10. He potentially even can win. He has won here at North Wilkesboro before. He's good at short tracks. The Chevys and the Hendrick, especially the Hendrick guys, look to have a really good setup. So Kyle Larson just got a bad draw because of his bad finish last week. So that puts him at 62 points. Not quite the optimal, but easily somebody that we could take. Christopher Bell starting in third. So we'll take Family Man's pick for number 1. And we'll put him at 50 laps led, since he is really fast, and 25 fast laps. He could easily lead 100. He could lead 150. We have 450 laps to lead here. So, and this is kind of the bare minimum. This is like, okay, start in third. He's fastest in practice. Going to lead 50 laps, 25 fast laps, 70.8. You'll lock him in. William Byron starting in 15th. Willie B was fairly quick in practice. Actually, now that we're caught up, once again, Freebird, good call out. Thank you. It's been a long day. I've been packing and everything else to go to Florida. And yes, Matt, thank you for the shout out. I've been watching the tropical updates, and it could get a little interesting Monday, Tuesday down in Panama City. Not sure we're going to play much baseball. I don't think we're actually scheduled to play until Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, so maybe it pushes off or goes away by then. But Christopher Bell starting in third, super fast in practice, fastest in single lap, fastest in 10 lap. We look at his speeds. He was extremely consistent. Does not appear that he ever made any adjustments or came in for any adjustments. He did 43 straight laps, so somewhere he came in. Yeah, about lap 43. It does look like he improves a little bit somewhere in here. I'm not sure why it. Oh, his best lap was lap 40. No, that's not right. I don't know what my AI is doing. Bell's best lap 18.272, which is over here. Yeah. But then it goes Bell's best lap 10, 43 laps. I got to figure out what it's talking about here. But either way, extremely consistent, extremely fast. fastest in the 10-lap run, all good. He won this All-Star race last year. His best finish out of the 5 we're comparing to is second. He's got a 14.8 average running position. Don't love that piece of it, but he's really good at this style track, and he did win the All-Star race here last year. So, yes, I agree with you, Family Man. Bell is going to be hard to beat. He's definitely top 5 of my driver list. And if we look at the calculator, which once again, everybody, this is free to use at racinginthedraft.com. Feel free, go use the calculator. Just remember, if you go anywhere else other than either calculator, rankings, or optimizer, if you shut this down, if you lose internet service, lose power like I did earlier today, all your work for the calculator is gone. And there's no way to get it back. Sorry. But as long as you don't leave the DK calculator site, it'll stay here. In fact, after some nights of doing this with you guys, I've literally put my computer to sleep, come back in the morning, and once I woke my computer back up, it was still here because I never closed the actual window out. So it does survive that, but if you go and click blog or any of these or leave the website, it's gone. So just be careful when you do it. But this is a great way if you play the pick 6 to find out like fantasy point totals and those types of things. This is a great tool. In fact, I've had a couple people on Discord reach out and say, hey, out of everything, I love the calculator the best. And that's awesome. Glad you guys are getting some use out of it. Speaking of the Discord, the fresh link is down in the description. Make sure you go and join the Discord. Would love to have more conversations over there. I'm always posting the optimal lineups and all of the podcasts that happen throughout the week. My AI does a complete summary of each of those AIs. So if you don't happen to have a couple hours to listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast or The Teardown or Dale Jr.'s or whatnot, you can read the short synopsis of each of those over there. And then I do a full week breakdown, which is about a 10-minute episode that actually my AI takes care of and does. I review it and make sure it looks and sounds right. But that's in either written form or audio form. So definitely go over to Discord, and all that is actually on this website here also. So if you want to have more of a conversation later or throughout the week, make sure you go hit me up over there. And yeah, let's keep on rolling here. William Byron next in line here. Willie B, 9,900, starting in the 15th position. His practice speeds were 4th in single lap, 2nd in the 10-lap consecutive average. Did 77 total laps at practice. Good for Willie B. And the crazy thing is, most of these guys didn't run the first 10 or 15 minutes of practice. It was driving me nuts. I'm like, get on the track, get as many laps as you can. I mean, they eventually did, but Willie B, for the 5 tracks we're comparing to, has got 1 win, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, an 11th place average running position. I say he does have that 1 win. I think that was at Iowa last year. I mean, Willie B is really good. Now, the question is, he's had a little bit of a hit or miss season so far this year. And his practice speeds, he's in the hot pink here. Looks okay. And it's always kind of hard to tell. Was he racing around somebody and just didn't have the right line or angle? Was he trying something different? Or did he actually have a problem here? I don't mind his practice speeds. They're not as good as Bell or Larson or even Hamlin, but they're decent. And he's starting in 15th, so he's got some room to run when it comes to place differential. So William Byron starting in 15th, I think a solid 7th place finish. I don't know if he goes and leads 30 laps. We'll bump him down. Maybe he does lead a few laps. I'm not not staking the case on him leading a ton of laps. And, so we'll go 15 laps led and 7 fast laps and finish in 7th. 52-point day. We'll lock it in and move on to Chase Elliott, who did win at Martinsville earlier this year. Decent short track driver. Typically leads laps at Martinsville and Bristol, and I don't think I've ever seen him really lead a whole lot of laps at Phoenix. Iowa's been a little bit tough on him. Richmond, he's always kind of run near and close to the top 10, since that's my hometown track. But he does have that one win at Martinsville earlier this year. He's got multiple wins at Martinsville, so he knows how to get around the short tracks. The rest of his averages aren't great for the 5 tracks we're comparing to. He's got that one win. He's only got one top 20 out of the other 4 races. 19.6 average running position. So it's been a little bit of a tough go on the short tracks for Chase Elliott. Kind of interesting. That's why I like to do these broadcasts, because I really get to dig down, and I'm like, wow, 19.6 average running position. He's only got 2 top 20s, but he won Martinsville? That's interesting. I thought he was better at short tracks than that, but the stats are the stats. In the last race here at North Wilkesboro last year, for the All-Star race, he finished in 5th. Oh, let's look at his practice speeds. He definitely comes out a little... This is a little concerning. A little wonky to start. Handling not quite where he needed. I know he came out fairly early. And then for the most part, he runs kind of close to the average line. He does have a couple decent laps in here. But nowhere is he really consistently faster than Larson or Bell. And then he's got a couple laps where he really kind of shoots a lot higher than I like to see. It's not consistently high. He's not consistently inconsistent. That makes sense. I don't like this is concerning at the beginning, other than it's the beginning and you have a fresh track, getting a feel for it. Okay, let that slide. This one down here, these spikes here bother me a little bit. Not huge, but slightly concerning. So with that being said, let's look at the calculator for Chase Elliott. Starting in 10th. Now all the algorithm stuff and the AI says, based on all the stuff and information we have, probably about a 20th place finish. That honestly seems to be probably a little on the high side, in my opinion. We'll back it down to right at start where you finish, or finish where you start. 10th. I don't think you go and lead a ton of laps. I think this is just if he happens to get lucky, he'll lead 5 and have 2 fast laps. So, and the whole thing is, if you think Chase Elliott has a better day than that, and you have to remember with Martinsville, the only reason he really got that win and the only reason he really got the finish he got was because of a huge strategy call. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use that as your storyline when you're building your lineups. And I'm not saying I'm a complete fade on Chase Elliott by any means. But when I look at, maybe the 80 lineups that I build, I'm probably only going to build 5, maybe 10% of those that I go, yes, Chase Elliott will have the same strategy and end up getting a solid top 3 or first place finish. So that's the story arc that you build when you build these multi-tournament builds, is you go, okay, how many times out of 100 do I think Chase Elliott is able to pull a strategy? I don't think, based on what I'm seeing in his speed in practice and his consistency on short tracks, that he's as good as Bell, or he's as good as Blaney, or he's as good as Hamlin or Larson. So with that being said, it becomes much tougher for me to put him in a top 5 type of position. And his practice speeds didn't sell me. So I think it's finish where you start. You might get a chance to lead some laps by a strategy call, but honestly, I don't think he leads any laps. This is actually being generous. So it's a 36.2 for Chase Elliott. So I'm probably a little bit of a fade. Probably more than a little. I'm probably a decent amount of fade off of Chase Elliott. Joe Logano, next in line here, is starting in the 11th position. He was 9th in single lap. He was 8th in 10-lap consecutive average. He did 80 laps of practice. I love seeing a lot of practice laps. And he was consistently in the top 10 for most of practice. So good on Joe Logano. That was hard for me to say, but good for Joe Logano. Good speed. Penske's always good at these short tracks. So Joe Logano also has a win in the All-Star race 2 years ago here at North Wilkesboro. It was right after their fresh repave. So Joe Logano easily has the capability of winning at a track like this. For the 5 tracks we're comparing to, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. I mean, 4 out of the 5, he's finished in the top 10. So short tracks are definitely in Joey Logano's wheelhouse. It's the mile and a half that Joey seems to struggle at the most. Super speedways, he has a trouble finishing super speedways, not necessarily running fast at them. 10.8 average running position for the 5 tracks we're comparing to. His best finish is 3rd for those 5 tracks. And his last All-Star race here, he finished 2nd. And the year prior to that, he finished 1st. So, pretty good at North Wilkesboro. Don't mind the Joe Logano call at all. And if you look at his practice speeds, I mean, they're very consistent, very good till, lap 50, 51? And maybe they come in and do an adjustment and they get a little slower. Or he didn't stop at all. And you could really start to see where the tire fall off really starts to really hinder and come into play at about lap 50. But honestly, if everybody else stayed out that long, it would probably end up being about the same. So, no problems with this. Where do I think Joey ends up finishing for my story arc? I mean, the algorithm says 11th. I think he's probably a little better than that. I'll give him a 4th. And I think he may even potentially lead some laps. So we'll leave it at 15 and 8. And we'll run a 54.4. No problem with that at all. All right, Tyler Reddick next in line here at $9,200, starting in the 5th position. His practice speeds were about where I thought Tyler Reddick would be for practice speeds. Tyler Reddick's not. He's improved, but he's not good at short tracks. Plain simple. I live 15 minutes from the Richmond track, and I've watched Tyler Reddick race there multiple times. It's not pretty. Not compared to what Tyler Reddick does on road courses and mile and a halves, the intermediate style tracks. It's not his cup of tea. Sometimes he has decent days, but he's not the best at these under 1 mile tracks. They just don't fit his wheelhouse all that well. I mean, he used to suck at road courses too, and he finally learned how to drive those. And he's improved, but he's still not there. Over the 5 tracks we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. That's not awful, but he's starting in 5th. This is the problem I have. He's starting in 5th. His practice speeds were 31st and 28th. So he's not showing up with practice speeds either for the 5th place spot that he was gifted. His best finish is 4th. And the All-Star race here last year, he finished 7th. Not bad, but he's only going up against 23 drivers. So if we look at his practice speeds, he's in the hot pink. It's not near Blaney, or not near Bell, not near Larson. And you've got the 5th place starting spot. I see this as just nothing but a negative place differential. Now, is it 16th? I mean, maybe. I think he can go and salvage a 9th place finish. But does he have a lot of fast laps? No. Does he have a bunch of laps led? I mean, maybe because he's starting in 5th and his pit crew's pretty fast, maybe he pulls a strategy and might get to 8. And I think this is all being extremely generous, and it's a 34.8. It's not inside the top 15. So, and I always build my lineups around who do I think makes the top 15 in DraftKings points. So, does Tyler Reddick end up becoming a sub-core, which means the 16th through 22nd place driver in the story I've pulled up in my head? Yes. Which means he's probably going to be about a 10% ownership stake is kind of where I'm lying with the Tyler Reddick play. So my core 15, my top 6 will end up in that 30 to 50% ownership range. The 7 through 15 end up in that 20 to 35% ownership range. Then I've got my subcore, which would be a Tyler Reddick, would be somewhere between 5 and 15% ownership. And that's kind of how it works. So then I've covered 22 of the 37 drivers. So there's 15 drivers that I go, I really don't like any of these calls. But sometimes you just have to play them because you don't have anything with salary that you could play otherwise. So you pick the best of the worst to fill out your salary caps. All right, so that's Tyler Reddick. Next in line here, Chase Briscoe, who did, I think he did a phenomenal job with the Dale Jr. download this past week. If anybody hasn't listened, go listen. I think Chase Briscoe did a wonderful job. Noah, Noah, don't. I don't say I do a great job doing live video, but Noah definitely struggled a little bit. I like him. I think he was honest, and I think he was great. It just, that is a true look at who Noah Gregson is. Like it or don't, I like him. And I like his honesty. And he doesn't hide it. So I enjoyed it, but it definitely gave you a real, true, clean picture of who Noah Gregson is. Which actually is a really refreshing thing. But Chase Briscoe 8900 did a great job with Dale Jr. download and has worked his way back into a solid Chase playoff spot. Good for him. Starting in the 30th position, his practice speeds were not as good as I would have hoped, 28th and 17th. In the last 5 short tracks we're comparing to 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. Briscoe, in my opinion, is similar to Tyler Reddick. It's not 100% doesn't fit his best track type. Chase Briscoe may not be as great at, he's pretty good at the 1.5 mile intermediate styles, but it's more the 1 mile to 1.5 mile. It's the Darlingtons, it's the Gateway, Nashville Super Speedway, that just below intermediate tracks that Chase Briscoe, in my opinion, thrives really well at, and some of the road courses. And it's not that he's bad at the short tracks. I don't think he's quite as bad as Tyler Reddick. The nice thing is he's starting in 30th. Do I think he can work his way towards the front? Absolutely. What does that end up looking like? Well, let's look at his practice speeds. I mean, when you look at 28th to 17th and you look at this, it's like, oh, he was average. Well, right, because that's what 28th to 17th gets you. Average. It's not as fast as Bell. It's not as fast as Larson. It's not as fast as Hamlin or close to Blaney. But he's starting in 30th. So we've got a lot of place differential potential here. And that's what I like with the Briscoe call. Do I think it's a top 5? No, probably not. Is it a top 10? I think it's probably maybe a 9th or even just a 10th. Do I think he leads a bunch of laps? No, I don't. I'm going to knock it down to 2. But I am going to give him, the 2 fast laps. Puts him in at 55.4. Not quite the optimal spot, but all you got to do is literally get to, 7th from 10th? I don't mind the 55.4 call. Starting in 30th, I think he can work his way up there. His pit crew's good enough. Oh boy. Next in line here, Carson Hocevar. Carson is learning very quickly. Now, he got a great finish last week at Atlanta. Probably could have and probably almost should have won that race. Except for Carson is finding out very quickly what his actions on the track and his over-aggression will cost you when you need it the most. Carson's sheer talent and speed and no fear got him to the front multiple times at Atlanta and at multiple other tracks so far this year. The problem is it comes at a cost. It comes at the cost of maybe not absolutely wrecking somebody else, but not giving them the respect of the position that they have on the track. So when it comes back to Carson needs a buddy or a helper to push him to a win or even a solid finish, there's nobody there to help him last week. And then the week prior, everybody used him as, Zane Smith used him as a punching bag. It was payback. Well, guess what? We're at a short track. It's the perfect place to pay back drivers. And we saw it in the truck race today. Carson got paid back in the truck series because he didn't make a whole lot of friends in the truck series. And he keeps going back into the truck series to race, which is fun. It's great. I like Carson Hocevar. I think he's incredible for the sport. But he's paying his lumps. He's paying for his past right now. So Carson Hocevar starting in 4th really makes me nervous. Can he finish in 4th? Sure. Do I think it's more of, I think Carson ends up getting some payback at some point in this race? Yeah. So the 4th place scares me because of that with Carson Hocevar. His practice speeds were, and that's the thing, is his practice speeds weren't phenomenal. They were average. But because of the matrix, he's starting in 4th. That is short. The short track experience has been really suspect. It's been really hit or miss. So on the calculator, Carson Hocevar starting in 4th. The averages say 14th. I think that's be generous. Do I think he turns fast laps? I think he's one of the ones that really screws with my whole 2-for-1 special, because I think it's a opposite. I think it's a 4-to-1. He gets 4 fast laps to maybe his 1 lap lead. So I think he gets some fast laps, but I don't think he finishes well. And I think being 14 might be generous. So I'm going to lock him in for a 23.5, and we're going to move on to Ty Gibbs, who really actually is quite good at short tracks. Really, honestly, this year, Ty Gibbs has been pretty good at every style track. Super speedways, road courses, intermediates, all of them. He's been pretty good at. And that's why he's solidly in 4th place in the chase standings right now. So, and yeah, you want to talk about chase standings? Woo! It's getting tight at the top. Denny to Ryan Blaney, I think, is within 60 points now. Didn't see that coming a couple weeks ago. But Ty Gibbs, $8,500, starting in the 2nd position. Practice speeds were pretty good. He was 6th in single lap, 11th in 10 lap consecutive average. He does have the one win that he got at Bristol earlier this year. 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 9.6 average running position for the 5 tracks we're comparing to, since we don't have any real way to compare North Wilkesboro to anything other than a potential of All-Star race, which Ty Gibbs didn't even get to last year. So Ty Gibbs didn't even have that. So what does Ty Gibbs give us or get us? I don't mind his practice speeds. They're perfectly fine. They're within the average. They're not quite as good as Larson and Bell. And the problem is he's starting in second. Do I think he ends up with a potential top 5? Yeah. Could this be a slight negative place differential, but still ends up having a good enough finish that he gets close to the optimal, or at least within your top 15? Yeah, I do think that. I think it could be a 5th place finish. He could start in second. He could potentially even lead 20 laps and get 10 fast laps. It's a 45.5. Now, anything over 35 or 36 points puts you in the top 15. And that's why I said, sure, it's possible. It's also possible that he comes out and has an incredible day, finishes where he starts, and leads 50 laps. What does that do? In the 20 fast lap, 63.5. It's absolutely there now. I think it's much more of a 5th, lead 30 laps, have 15 fast laps. 50.3. We'll lock it in for there. Yeah. Is it where I feel comfortable in the optimal range? No. Is it where I feel comfortable enough to run him in 15% of my lineups? Yeah. I'm just going to run him opposite of a Blaney call. So it's just so rare that you have a first and second place starter both make optimals. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. It's just rare. All right, next in line here, Chris Buescher, $8,300 starting in the 9th position. He was 10th in single lap, 20th in 10-lap consecutive average. And over the last 5 short tracks we're comparing to, no top 5s, no top 10s, 3 top 20s. That part's not great. A 19.6 average running position. Practice speeds were at best average and sometimes a little wonky. And really, honestly, the rest of RFK didn't impress me in practice. I'll have to see what Ryan Preece looks like, because he's really he's the short track, I wouldn't say ace, but he's the short track of the 3 RFK drivers. Buster's not bad. Brad's not bad. Ryan Preece really is the much more of the short track ace. And ace is being kind of nice. So 9th place starting spot. I think he's probably a good 14th. I don't think he goes and leads a bunch of laps. I think he has 3 fast laps. I'm going to lock him in for 26.4. Not great. It's probably not even really something I'm going to run a whole lot of. Just because mostly of his starting spot. I think at best he finishes where he starts. And that won't be enough to really do anything. Ross Chastain. Unloaded and practiced extremely fast. But he had 3. He missed inspection, pre-qualifying inspection 3 times. Because qualifying was rained out, he wasn't able to qualify. Well, because it was rained out, they set by the matrix. So now he's set at 13th, where he would have originally been set at 37th. The problem is when you have 3 penalties in pre-race inspection, you now have to start at the rear and you have to do a green flag pass through. There's a chance he gets lucky, and there's a caution within those first 4 or 5 laps. But if it does not if there's not a caution, let's say we run to lap 20, 25, 30, a drive-through penalty at North Wilkesboro is at least 1, more likely 2 laps that you end up losing. Now, he's lucky because he was fast enough. Welcome back, Daniel. You think you're back, huh? All right. Well, let's see what tomorrow brings. But hopefully your job's going well. What are you doing? Just send me a message on there. I can't sit here and look at my phone. Oh, you are back. Congratulations, buddy. Nice. Heck yeah. You are back. Congratulations on your big UFC hit. Daniel plays PGA and UFC and NASCAR. I don't know if you play. You play a little baseball too, don't you? And golf. You play a lot of DFS across the board. I, for the most part, stick to NASCAR. But yeah, you'll be able to play with a little bit of winnings tomorrow, and hopefully your new job. Daniel got a new job, by the way, and the job is going well. Thank you. Good. Congratulations on the new job, new baby, new winnings. There you go. Things are looking up. I like it. But Ross Chastain gonna go at least 1, if not 2 laps down, and he's starting at 13th. Can he come back? Absolutely. The problem is you're going to go 1 or 2 laps down, and you're not lights out right now. For the 5 tracks we're comparing to, he has no top 10s. 4 top 20s, yes. But you're going to go 2 laps down. The best you're probably going to do is come back to 25th. Like I said, I loved his practice speeds. They unloaded extremely fast. A little inconsistent, but extremely fast. I just don't think there's a way. I mean, if you're looking to be really, really contrarian, play Ross Chastain. I mean, his average, even without the penalty, is 19th. Who? Oh my God. I don't get these many text messages in a normal day. Oh, that's my sister's taking a different flight tomorrow than we are. I've got to pick her up at the airport. But my dad's texted me like 4 times. Daniel's texting me. Matt's texting me. I don't get text messages normally. All right. Sorry. Focus. But even with Ross not going a lap down, even with his practice speeds, maybe he gets to 10th, but now that you got to make up 2 laps, 19th is probably where I'm going to leave him. He's not going to lead any laps, in my opinion, and the fast laps are 4. I'm going to lock him at a 20.8, and that's being generous. Bubba Wallace, 7,900, starting in 26th. I mean, honestly, this is where Bubba Wallace is actually better than Tyler Reddick on tracks a mile and shorter. Just the hard truth of it all. But starting in 26th, the average is 17th. His best finish is 6th, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, 17.4 average running position, but he's starting in 26. His practice speeds were, okay. They're better than average on the long run. So I think he can work his way through the field. Now, Bubba has a tendency to have, he does not have bad luck like Connor Zilic has bad luck, but Bubba has a tendency to have some bad luck. Some of it on his own issues, but there is that being to be said. So do I think Bubba Wallace is a 17th, even a 15th or 14th place driver? Sure. I'm fine with 15th. Do I think he leads 25 laps? Nope. I'm going to give him 1, and I'll give him like 3 fast laps. Yeah, the whole fast lap to lap sled changes, because I think you can get some fast laps kind of worked in at different times because of strategies or the way the track, how the race is panning out. It's when you're looking for the dominators and how dominator points laps led to fast laps equates. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's a 0.45 point. But a 41.2 for Bubba Wallace. Top 15. Not optimal, though. Ryan Preece, we just talked about him. Out of all the RFK drivers, he has the better natural ability for short tracks. So what do his lap times look like? He was 21st and 21st, and he's starting 21st. How strange is that? And the 21st starting spot was actually by luck, because that's where he finished last week in Atlanta. But his practice speeds were 21st and 21st. That's really weird. Is that an omen? He's going to finish in 21st? I think the average is probably closer. I think he potentially gets to a 13th, maybe even better than that. Does he lead a lot of laps? No, I don't think so. We'll give him the 1. We'll do the same treatment, the 1 and 2. We're going to lock him in a 40.2. I think there's a potential he gets to a top 10, but it's only 46 points. We'll leave it at 12th, 42.2. I mean, his practice speeds for Priest were actually, looking at it now, better than average, worse than average, worse than average. I mean, honestly, maybe through some attrition, he gets a little bit better. I'm not sure it's a 12th place finish. I think it's closer to 18th. Just looking at the speeds. So I'm going to lock him in at 29.8. I changed my mind after really looking at it. All right. Brad Keselowski, starting in the 23rd spot, was 33rd in single lap, 33rd in 10 lap consecutive average, because he only did 44 laps of practice. I don't know why he was so late to practice. I don't know if they were just waiting for the track to rubber up or whatnot, but he literally had half of the laps as everyone else. Brad is typically decent at short tracks. He's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 5 top 20. So 5 out of 5, he's finished in the top 20, starting in 23rd. Now, how far up does that go? 10.8 average running position. He finished best of 3rd, and he finished the All-Star race here last year in 22nd. And if we look at his practice speeds, they're not pretty. They are all above the average line, except for out of the 44 laps, probably 5 are better than average, and it's not the fastest. Andrew says, came in late. Think a 2 or 3 Dom build for lineups. So it's yes. But I don't think it's. I don't think you have to. I don't think about it as a 3 dominator person. I think it's a. Who do you think, honestly, is probably the best dominator? Then who do you think has the second best potential for a dominator spot or a just really good solid top 5 or 3 finish? Then who is going to start somewhere in the top 12 and finish close to top 5? That's how you get to the 3 that, and maybe all 3 end up leading laps and having fast laps, but I'm building it as who's my shoe-in for a real dominator? Where I think like a Ryan Blaney, a Denny Hamlin at a style track like this, they're going to lead 100, 150 laps. They're going to finish top 3. That, in my opinion, that's a Bell, a Hamlin, or a Blaney. Now, with that being said, you take 2 of those 3, but then I think you also add in a Larson. You add in, I think Larson's more of a PD play, but ends up finishing top 10. But it's expensive. So who would be the middle to slightly lower tier type of driver that you would put in for that 4th? And then your other 2 are cheapos. They're guys that we're going to get to here in a few minutes that there's 6 of them that you mix and match with those 4 other what you would think as dominant drivers. That's how I'm building out for this race. But Bad Brad is not great. Did I put him on the calculator? I wanted to answer Andrews, because Andrew's here most every week. I appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, Brad's practice speeds were not good. The RFKs just did not unload very well, and they have not been super fast over the last, I don't know, 6 weeks. They started the year off and on a tear, but recently they've definitely fallen off. Yeah, where'd I put Brad on the calculator? I didn't yet. Okay. This has an 11th place finish. I don't think he leads laps, number one. Unless he does it through strategy. And I don't think he has a whole lot of fast laps. I mean, does he really have that many? Does he finish top 5? Yeah, he's finished top 20 in the last 5 races. 2 of them in top 10. Gosh, do not see with those practice speeds. That's the concerning part. I mean, I think he's got some place differential, but I'm only going to put him in a 15th. And I don't love it, but I'll put it there because the averages say so. I don't love it. Daniel Suarez starting in the 17th position, practiced in 19th and 35th. In the last 5 races on the short track package, no top 5s, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s, an 18.8 average running position, finished 7th best out of those 5 races, and finished 23rd in this race here last year. Yeah, he definitely struggled. And his practice speeds are average, 18th, 19th. And that's about what he practiced. And he's starting in 17th. I just don't think there's much. Yeah, I mean, I think that the average kind of shows up here. Start in 17th, finish in 19th, 2 fast laps. I'm just going to lock that in for that and move on. I think the averages are what they are because his practice speeds are average and are what they are. Austin Cindric, $7,200, starting in 14th. His practice speeds were 12th and 12th. Remember, the Penske's are pretty good here. And Austin Cindric seemed to practice pretty well if we're looking at the 5 races that we're comparing to. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 15th place average running position. His best finish is 5th for those 5 races. And he finished 18th here last year and starting in 14th. Practice speeds, he's in the hot pink. He fired off pretty comparable to the fast guys. And his fall off is about the same. And then he gets, this is the part that I go, all right, what happened over here? We get really wonky. And that's where I just go, did he not pit? And the tires just really began to really kind of fall off. Yeah. I mean, for the first 40 laps or so, he's in pretty good shape. Starting in 14th. Let's see what the calculator says. His average should be Austin Cindric. Yeah, starting 14th, finishing 15th, 10 fast laps, 4 laps led. I think that because he's starting a little bit further back, I don't really love that spot. We'll give him 2 laps led. No, we'll give him 1. And 3 fast laps. And finish where you start for the most part, 29.7. All right. Josh Berry. This is right down the alley for Josh Berry. And Josh Berry has had to race his way into the All-Star race multiple times here and has actually finished well multiple times. Well being 17th, but he had to race his way in. Starting in 28th, he was 8th in single lap, 16th in 10 lap. And really this style track, half mile to 1 mile is absolutely in Josh Berry's wheelhouse. It's also in the wheelhouse for the Wood brothers. It's either super speedways, kind of like Joe Logano. It's either super speedways or it's short tracks. The intermediates, the Penske's, Josh Berry, they're not good at it. The short tracks, really good. He's really good at tire management. Not that we're seeing extreme tire fall off, but I also think we have a potential to run a 70, 80 lap run tomorrow. Maybe even more. And that's where he runs the average line pretty much straight out. But he's starting 28th. The average line is 18th. So, the averages have him sitting in a 19th. I think it's probably actually closer to a 17th or 18th. Now, do I think he leads a lot of laps? Nope, I don't. I'm going to take those away. I'm going to do 4 fast laps. 3. 39.4. I mean, it's not a huge points day by any means, but looking up, Bubba Wallace, and you're all the way up into Ty Gibbs at that point. So 39.4, as of right now, it puts Josh Berry 10th out of the drivers I've done so far. So that's kind of where I'm at with that one. All right, next line here, Alex Bowman, $7,000, starting in 25th. He was 16th in single lap, 9th in 10 lap consecutive average, 76 laps of practice in the 5 tracks we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. I think he actually raced in all those. No, let's see. Coda was the 3rd race of the year, so he missed. I think he missed Martinsville and Bristol. Yeah. In fact, if I remember, he missed Martinsville and Bristol. So out of this, he's missing two of those races. So 1 top 5, 2 top 10s out of 3 races with a 15.3 average running position. He finished 2nd at, I guess, Richmond or Iowa last year. So I don't think it was Phoenix. I can't remember. Yeah. Hold on. Either way, Alex Bowman's not bad at the short tracks. Look at his practice speeds. They're definitely better than average until about lap 32. Then it gets a little wonky. He comes in and gets some adjustments. And he follows kind of the same line as Kyle Larson. So at that point, I think it's probably about average. Starting in 25th, though, there's definitely some room to run for Alex Bowman. The averages say 15th. I'm okay with that. I think it actually could improve just a little bit. And the fast laps are 2. I would move him to 12th and lock him in. 45.9. So I just like this starting spot better than Josh Berry's. So I got to fix that. All right. All right. We're good to go there now. All right. SVG. Starting in the 8th position. This is the one that gets me in trouble every time. Because I don't really know how to end up playing him. The risk is, in my opinion, the risk is much greater than the reward. The reward could be an optimal lineup. I get that. And he raced the truck race really well. He raced at Martinsville earlier this year really well. And it's the times that he qualifies top 10, he has a tendency to hold on to a top 10. What does that look like? Well, we'll look at the calculator. Let me know if we're having audio issues. I just got a warning on my computer about audio issues. Just want to make sure. I think it's fine, but just want to check. Starting in 8th. I mean, he easily could finish in 8th. SVG, 8th. The average is, say, 20th. If he does go with the average, it's an easy don't play. If you think he can finish 7th, it's a 39.4. Puts him right there in the same ballpark as Josh Berry. But you just don't know. I honestly don't know what you get with SVG. That's the problem. Is he hasn't been consistent enough at the ovals for me to feel comfortable saying, "Yep, he's he is a good sleeper pick." But with him finishing top 3 today in the trucks on an oval, may pull some people to having ownership on him, which makes me go, I want to fade off of him. I could see going either direction with an SVG. I could see an all-out fade. I could see this is a great sleeper pick. And you're probably still right with the sleeper pick. I don't think he's any more than 10% owned. And if you think he's going to do well, and the rest of the field is only 10% on him, that's a good call. It's a coin flip, to be perfectly honest, on how I feel about SVG. I will run him probably what I would consider even with the field, 10 to 15%. It's going to be a couple of just one-offs. Yeah, everything just fell off really bad. Let me know if you guys are having any connection issues with my stream. Just curious. So, I'm just going to keep rolling because the tape just keeps on going. All right, Eric Jones. Next in line here. Eric Jones. All right, starting in 6th. Ugh. His best finish on short tracks this year is a 10th place finish, and his average running position is 19.2. He was 26th in single lap, 31st in 10 lap consecutive average. This is just a bad spot, in my opinion, for Eric Jones. I'm honestly going to be a fade. He's in the same ballpark as Tyler Reddick, to be perfectly honest, on averages. Tyler Reddick's really, or Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe is really good at that mile to mile and a half style track. Eric Jones is really good to that mile to mile and a half style track. You go below a mile and a half, these 3/4, 0.6, 0.5s, and the just doesn't kind of work out that well. You get to a super speedway and it's hit or miss, but that's hit or miss for most everybody. And we look at his practice speeds, there's nowhere, there's only like 2 or 3 laps that he's better than average. I'm a fade on Eric Jones. I'm just going to leave it at the average of 19th. No laps led, no fast laps, and kind of move on. Everyone's favorite driver, Zane Smith. Rough day to Atlanta last week. I get it. Practice speeds this week, though, are 23rd and 18th, and he gets a 29th starting spot for this week. In the 5 races we're comparing to, no top 10s, 2 top 20s. His best finish is an 11th, but he's starting in 29th. If we look at the practice speeds, he's got speed, then he doesn't have speed. But 29th is really far back. The problem is when Zane qualifies, or he didn't actually qualify, it just happened to be where he was given. Zane has a tendency to, if he's starting kind of in that top 15, top 10, he'll stay there. He kind of he kind of finishes where he starts most of the time. The problem is he's starting 29th. He's probably going to finish close to 29th. When he starts 12th, and we're like, oh, that's too far up, he'll finish 12th. He seems to be the most consistent. I'm just going to finish where I start drivers. I'd really have to go back to investigate a little bit more of that. But I'm going to leave it at a 25th place finish. I will run him probably 10 to 15% of the time because there is a decent amount of place differential. He's a pretty good driver. Not the best at short tracks, but we're gonna have some cheapos, and $6,500 is pretty cheap. The problem is he probably will get some ownership because of that price and starting spot. Michael McDowell, 6,400, starting in the 16th position. I appreciate Michael McDowell being one of he and John Hunter Nemechek going out and putting rubber down on the track first, because everybody else was scared. They were scared to go out and put out in laps. I don't want to wear my tires out. I'd rather have somebody else go do it. Sorry. I'm starting to get a little tired. So, for the 5 tracks we're comparing to, Michael McDowell is not a good short track driver either. 19th place average running positions. Best finish is 9th for the 5 tracks we're comparing to. It's just not great. 27th in single lap, 29th in 10 lap consecutive average. I mean, he came in, he went out early, ran a bunch of laps, rubbered up the track, came in and made some adjustments, came back out, and honestly fired off very similar to what Kyle Larson fired off at. The problem is he's starting in 16th. I just don't think he's got the caliber to end up finishing any better than that. So the average says 19th, and I'm honestly right there for it. I don't think it gets any better than that. Austin Dillon, 6,300, starting in the 12th position. How much banking is in North Wilkesboro? It's 14 degrees, if I remember correctly. Go back and look at the infographic up top. Remember we're Austin Dillon. 17 degrees. But it's progressive. It doesn't state that, but it's 17 degrees and it's progressive. So it's not a whole lot. I mean, you got I think Martinsville's 12. Yeah, Martinsville's 12. Richmond's 14. Iowa's 12 to 14. And Bristol's 26 to 30. So 17 at North Wilkesboro. I mean, there's decent banking. But we need to go back to Austin Dillon. So hopefully that answers your question. Austin Dillon. Really good at Richmond and this 3/4, half to 3/4 mile type of track. As we look at the 5 races we're comparing to, he's got the win at Richmond. He's got 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, and a 14th place average running position. The problem is he's starting about there, which honestly doesn't do me a whole lot of good, because do I go in the story that I draw up in my head, does Austin Dillon just naturally on speed beat Larson, Bell, Blaney, Hamlin? No, probably not. So can he get to 5th or 6th? Maybe. His practice speeds are not bad. They're actually pretty good. They're better than average all the way throughout. He's starting in 12th. So can Austin Dillon get himself to a 7th place finish? That puts him in the optimal. That's a 21 laps led. I don't think that happens. Take that away. I think he gets 3 fast laps. A 7th puts him at 43. A 3rd puts him in the optimal. I don't think it's a 3rd that I'm willing to be like, oh yeah. Like, am I willing to bet on a potential top 10? Yeah, maybe. But I think an 8th place finish, 41.4. I'm gonna lock it in there. Austin Hill. Oh, bleh. Starting in 33rd, though, could potentially be something. If anybody was wondering if it was more flat like Martinsville or more banking like Bristol. It's more like Phoenix, Iowa, and Richmond. So not as flat as Martinsville and nowhere near as high banked as Bristol. I think the three best tracks to compare to are Richmond, Iowa, then Phoenix. And then you can look at a Martinsville. But Richmond and Iowa, in my honest opinion, are probably the two closest. And if we raced it Rockingham, you could put Rockingham into the same group. Rockingham is longer, but very, very similar in a lot of ways. Multi-groove, you can run top, bottom, you can diamond the corners, you can just run straight out the bottom, you can run right up next to the wall. And all of those are the same for North Wilkesboro. So it looks much more like a flat track than it actually is. And that's even very noticeable in iRacing. When I watch it on TV, the banking does not seem to be there. And then when I race it in iRacing, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of banking in turn 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are a little bit different. It's just because it's just lined up. It's just the way they're the same banking, but it just is different in 1 and 2. Hopefully that helps. Austin Hill starting in 33rd. What do we get from Austin Hill? I don't have a clue. I mean, the problem is I don't know what they're doing with the 33 car next year. Is it going to Noah? Maybe. Does Austin Hill get a ride, full-time ride in the Cup Series? I don't think he's good enough. I think there's way more better drivers out there to go get than Austin Hill. So, I mean, I think, jeez, I don't know what to do with Austin Hill. The problem is it's almost like he's just filling the spot to fill the spot till we can get to next year. But I know he wants to do well. He's a racer. Of course he does. He did 81 laps of practice. I think he was one of the highest practice lap drivers out there. It's also the O'Reilly series doesn't run here. So this is the first time Austin Hill's ever. I mean, I don't know if he's done any cars tours or late model stuff before at North Wilkesboro, but today may have been the first day that Austin Hill has ever shown up at North Wilkesboro. So for him to go out and he's got the 33rd qualifying spot because of what happened last week, but his practice speeds were 34th and 32nd. Do I think he can improve from there? Sure. And honestly, his practice speeds they're fine. There's some where he's really fast. There's some that he's slow. There's some that he's fast, which for somebody who's never been on this track before, especially in the next gen car, that's pretty solid. I don't think that's bad. Am I all of a sudden going to be like, ooh, he's a great place differential. He's my shoe in. No. Do I think it's a 27th place finish that the average says? Probably. Do I think he has a fast lap? No. Do I think he leads any laps? No. It's 21 point day, which doesn't cut it for Draftkings. But honestly, I don't know what to do with an Austin Hill, just like I don't know what to do with a Connor Zillage, who was actually really, really pretty good in practice. All of the Trackhouse cars showed up with pretty decent speed. The question is, does Connor Zillage's bad luck ever change? I don't know. Flip a coin. Really, I mean, honestly, just flip a coin. I don't know. Does Connor Zilic get wrecked on lap 1? Does he survive to lap 450? Dude, I don't know. He's young enough. He should be able to easily withstand and make it to the end. But when you've got this voodoo curse of bad luck that Connor Zilic has, I mean, and every time I go, you know what? I think I'm going to go all in on Connor Zilic. Is when he gets wrecked in lap 2 or turn 2 of lap 1. I mean, if we go off his practice speeds and he gets to 15th, it's a 46.5 day. If his bad luck stays around and he finishes 37th, it's really bad. It's negative 0.5. So it's take Connor Zilic if you think Connor Zilic is not going to have a bad luck day. And if you think he's going to have a bad luck day, then don't play him. I'll put him in at a 20th, 35.5. It puts him right there on the cusp of a top 15. And I'll honestly just be like, I don't know. Because I don't think anybody knows. Every time it's happened, it's lap 2 and he gets wrecked by somebody else because they got loose. That's not Connor's fault. I mean, maybe it is because it's where he's qualified, but it's not Connor's fault. It's just really bad luck. Riley Herbst, same thing. He has not had as bad of luck as Carson Hocevar, as Zilic has had. But he started 34th. Huge upside here. His practice speeds were 14th and 10th. Now, average running position of 27th on tracks like this. So not great. Best finish of 18th. Not great. But his practice speeds were pretty rock solid for being a 34th starter. So, I mean, if you're looking at, do I take Austin Hill, who doesn't really know what next year holds, and it doesn't seem like he's acting like, other than he knows he's going to probably end up, he definitely has his O'Reilly ride. There's no doubt about that. But does he want to be a cup driver? I don't see the drive for that. I don't see the interest in it. And does Richard Childress go with a Noah? But then we look at a Riley Herbst, who's like probably going to end up being with Legacy as their third car. But he needs to prove himself. And he has been proving himself this year way beyond any expectation. So he's got a 34th starting spot, and his practice speeds look really good, and he's got this motivation and drive that he is fighting for a spot somewhere. And he's got better luck than Connor Zilic, starting 2 spots worse. Get to a 19th place finish, and you'll end up with 40.9 points. It's only 9 points out of optimal, and it's easily within the top 15 point line. I think he probably ends up getting a decent amount of ownership here, so buyer beware, but I do like the Riley Herbst play. His practice speeds were really, really good. Noah Gragson. I mean, other than he is a fan favorite, this year I don't think could go any worse for Noah Gragson and Connor Zilic than it has gone. It's a really good thing he has a really loyal sponsor with Bass Pro. Because without that, I'm not sure Noah would probably be back in either Trucks or O'Reilly at this point. Starting in the 31st spot, his practice speeds were 32nd and 23rd. The last 5 races at similar style tracks, no top 20s. 29.2 average running position. Best finish of 26th. He did make the All-Star race here last year because of the fan vote and ended up getting a 13th place finish. And if we look at the practice speeds, they're right where you would think they would be. They're ugly. Starting in 31st, I think the average is probably about right of 29th. Maybe he gets a fast lap. I think it's a 15.5. Because that's the other thing is I started to go back and look even back 30 years ago, 31, 32, 33, Jeff Gordon era, Mark Martin era. This track is not a high variable for carnage. Cars tend to make it for the entire race. Drivers tend to make it for the entire race. A couple times you saw fatigue or an engine expired, but most of the time it was very few cautions. And this was back in the day before we had stage breaks. They'd have 2, maybe 3 cautions in a race. And most of the time, because it's not an aero-dependent track, drivers were able to continue on. So I think that's why it kind of lost its luster way back when. It was kind of a boring, long green flag run type of race. So, but either way, that being said, Noah Gragson, I think that's about where we're going to be at. All right, Todd Gillen, next in line here, starting in the 18th position, $5,600. His practice speeds were 20th and 22nd, kind of starting in 18th. Average running position for the 5 racers we're comparing to, 20th. Best finish of 6. Practice speeds look like they're better than average, average, worse than average, bad to average. So probably about, at best, we're probably going to finish where we start, in the 18th position. The average is 20th. I don't think he has any fast laps. I'm going to back it down to 1. And I'm going to just load it in at a 21.5. So, AJ Allmendinger, starting in 35th. Now, his practice speeds were 30th and 36. Not good. But if we look at the 5 short tracks comparison, we've got 3 top 20s and a 20.2 average running position. Best finish of 15th for those 5 races. Look at the practice speeds, and they're at average at best, if not slightly worse, and that would be like 22nd, 23rd. So if we put it on the calculator, AJ Allmendinger, starting 35th, 20th. We're going back to fast laps down to 1. The 38.5. I mean, to make it optimal, all he's got to do is get to 15th. So I'm going to lock it at a 20th place finish. But that, honestly, is slightly risky. So, John Hunter Nemechek. Praises to John Hunter Nemechek for being the first driver to go out and run practice laps and rubber in the track, because everybody else was scared. They weren't scared. It's just they wanted to run on a more rubbered up track. Starting in the 19th position, he was 24th in single lap, 24th in 10 lap consecutive average. He did 78 laps of practice, lots of practice laps. Like I said, I'll give it to Austin Hill, 81 laps of practice. Good for him. But John Nemechek, for the 5 races we're comparing to, only 1 top 20, a 28th place average running position, and the best of 15th. And if we look at his practice speeds, I mean, he was the first one to go out and rubber the track in. So he was kind of taking his time. Then he finally turned some fast laps, and they were pretty decent. And then they weren't decent. So long run speed, not great with John Nemechek. Short run speed, pretty good. The problem is we're starting 19th. What's the average give us on the calculator for John Hunter? 28th. And honestly, it's probably about there. I could probably go 25th, but it's not good. I think he's starting too far up. So, don't love it. Did I lock it? Score a lot. Cool. All right. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. next in line here, starting in the 24th position. His practice speeds were 29th to 25th. And for the 5 tracks we're comparing to, one top 20 with a 25th place average running position. Guess what? I'm seeing a lot of the mid-20s. Best finish for those 5 races is 17th. He did finish 15th in the All-Star race here last year. Practice speeds look like average, better than average. Actually ran quite a few laps better than average. Then fell off, got better, fell off, got better. So about average towards through there. Starting in 24th, maybe a 17th, 18th place. We'll go with one fast lap, 32.5. I mean, we're getting down. We're at $5,200. We're going to have a couple guys back here to take. And I don't necessarily mind the Ricky Stenhouse call. Because of his starting spot, he's probably going to get some overlook. Because it's not like he's starting 34th. And it's not like he's starting 12th. Starting 24th. It's kind of like middle of the road. He's probably going to get overlooked. So I have no problem with the 24th to 18th. It's 32.5. Not quite to the 15-point line. You know, if he goes and gets a 16th, puts him into the top 15. If you get a 11th, it puts him probably close to the optimal. And 11th is not that far out of question. So, Cole Custer next in line here at $5,100, starting in the 20th position. Practice speeds were 25th and 14th. No top 20s for the 5 races we're comparing to. His best finish is 24th. You're starting in 20th. Yeah, Cole's not the greatest at the short track. He likes more of the longer than a mile. Look at his practice speeds. They're about average throughout, and he's starting kind of average, 20th. I mean, I think it might improve slightly. We'll go to 25th. Lock him in at a 13.9. He's not going to lead that. He's not going to have a fast lap. 13.5. Just, there's some weeks I really like the Cole Custer play. There's some weeks I don't. And for Cole Custer to matter, that's the thing, is he's going to need to get to 10th, 11th. I mean, potential, but that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, he's going to need to probably get close to a 12th. And I think it's more of a 23rd or 24th. Just my personal opinion. It's not completely out of the question, but I don't love it. Ty Dillon next in line here. Starting at 22nd, he's $5,000. His practice speeds were 35th and single lap, 27th and 10 lap consecutive run. One top 20, a 29.4 average running position, finished 20th, best of 20th for those 5 races we're comparing to. Ty Dillon, average, better than average, worse than average, average. I mean, the practice speeds aren't awful. They're probably about where he's qualified. And yes, I know he can qualify on speed. I mean, I could see finish where you start type of day, 21.5. Cody Ware next in line here. He actually did 53 laps of practice. Shout out to Cody Ware for at least doing more laps than somebody else I saw earlier who ended. Oh, Brad Keselowski, who ended 44 laps. 36th though. He's starting 36th, 34th. They just don't have the speed. I mean, decent practice times. I mean, what is it? This is 30th for a finish. I could even go with a 26th. Definitely not running fast laps. 36 to 26, maybe even a 25th, but it's still not going to be enough. And Chad Fitchum was just awful. I'm just not even going to go there. When I say awful, it's awful. It's not even close. That's bad. At least Cody Ware is in the ballpark. And actually, for his practice speeds, he's actually more in the ballpark than he normally is. All right, so now that we've got everybody done, we can go to. So once you have this all done, you have everybody locked in, your numbers locked up. You go to rankings, and this will give you who your top ranking driver is. Christopher Bell, 70.8. Denny Hamlin, 68.8. Ryan Blaney, 64. Larson, 62. Briscoe, 55. The problem is, all of those drivers, the first four, are all over $10,000. You can't run all four of them, so you got to be picky and choosy, and then you got to find the less expensive drivers. Well, the first less expensive driver is going to be Alex Bowman at $7,000 for 45.9. Good call. Austin Dillon. Like it. 6.3K, 41 points. Bubba Wallace at 7,900. Riley Herbst, it's 5,800. Josh Berry, 7,100. AJ at 5,500. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at 52. So once you have that, what I would do before you go to the optimizer or anything else, you come over here to the download CSV file. You download that, and that way you've got a copy of it, regardless of what happens to your computer. And it gives you this breakdown. Name, salary, starting position, and how many points you projected him to potentially get. So at least you have that if you ever need it when you start to build your lineups. Now you can go to the optimizer, and you can either lock a driver in, so they're in every lineup that you build. I don't necessarily do that because I don't need all that many. Or you can exclude the driver and never use them. Okay. So, like we already talked about it, Chad Fincham, I'm absolutely excluding from all my lineups. I do not like the Eric Jones play. Now, is that... I'm probably going to exclude him from all my lineups. And honestly, the same thing with John Hunter. Don't like where he's starting spot. Cole Custer, don't like where he's starting. Noah, you could potentially have a chance there. Ross Chastain, because he's going to have the drive-through penalty, I'm going to exclude him. Michael McDowell, Todd Gillen. So then what you do, so you get the ones that you're excluding, you take them out. Then you come up here to the top and go, okay, how much of a percentage of Christopher Bell do I really, really want? I'm going to be pretty honest. I'm going to be pretty heavy with Christopher Bell. I'm going to go 25 here. I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to go 55. Denny Hamlin, 20 to 50. And that's percentages. So 20% of my lineups on the minimum, 55% on the maximum. And then you're just going to kind of go through and do this with each and every one of them. You know, so probably Ryan Blaney, I'll probably be closer to the 15 to 40. And you could do this for if you want a more or less or whatnot. So you start to fill all those out. You get all the way through. Then you pick your salary minimum. And this is going to be much more. This is completely different than what we had last week. You're going to be pretty tight on salary. Not that you need to use all of it, but we could easily be $1,000 or less of salary cap left. It could also go as much as $2,000. Probably closer to $1,000 though. And then how much of a variance you want in your lineups, and you can, if you want them to be extremely different, I mean, the higher you go here, the tougher it is for them to run it. So it's probably more like a 30% variance. And the leverage, if you happen to be with one of the other sites, Roto Grinders or any of those that gives you what they think the percentage of ownership is, you could put that in here, and at that point you could then leverage either for or against them. What's your maximum high-priced driver that you want to use, and then what's the minimum value driver you want to use? You can put that in here. But either way, so after all that's said and done, you can then hit build lineup. It says built 20 of 20 lineups. So you can then come down here and look to see. And remember, we didn't finish filling out everybody, so this kind of got a little wonky. So it's got Kyle Larson at 65%, Bell at 55%, Denny Hamlin at 50%. And what it's doing is it's taking in what you put in through the calculator and trying to put together the best lineup that's different than every other lineup you have, is what it's trying to do. Once you hit the build lineup, you can hit the export file, and it gives you your lineups with the DraftKings numbers. So then all you need to do is import them in to DraftKings lineups. If you don't know what that looks like, go back to last week, and I do have that as an experiment. So that gives you everything. If you want to reset, you can hit the reset toggle. Gives you all your stuff, and there you go. I got to figure out a way that you can save all of these percentages, all these calculator percentages that you put in. I got to figure that out. Or a way to import that in. So that way, once you export, like right now, if I want to export it, great. The problem is, I'm going on vacation. I'm getting on an airplane tomorrow. I won't have my big desktop in front of me tomorrow on the flight. So I'll definitely have the little CSV file I just did, but I like to be able to have the stuff I just built out with you guys and run it. So either way, if anybody's got any thoughts, wants, or concerns, I've got to be up in 4 hours, less than 4 hours, to catch a flight. So I'm going to bed. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Join the Discord. Good luck tomorrow. Yeah, I'm traveling all day, so I'll be building my lineups in airports. So wish everyone the best of luck. Next week we are at Indy. It will be more than likely another Saturday night broadcast because I will still be in Florida, and we'll be remote, and I should be able to get all of the things done. I've been able to figure out how to use my AI while I'm out of town. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. I'm going to bed. Good night. See everyone next week. Good luck. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still taste the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's gotta run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.